The Mountain Blade community never ceases to amaze me. Here it is 2025 and I'm playing yet another new total conversion mod. Not for Bannerlord, although Shokuho did just come out and I do plan on making a video for that soon, but for Warband, a now 15-year-old sandbox strategy game. It's incredible. This is 457 AD, a brand new historic total conversion mod which released into 1.0 as of yesterday, June 13th, 2025. In its frankly massive world, players have the option to play with, against, or even as a literal treasure trove of historical figures, from Western Roman Emperor Majorian to King Geisric of the Vandals. Besides the obvious Romans and Goths, you can also play as Picts, Huns, Persians, and everything in between. It's an enormous mod with many avenues for you to explore, and personally is very reminiscent of the fantastic 1257 AD mod for those of you who are familiar with that. There's something so special, so astounding about being able to walk out of the throne in Carthage and to see the city rendered in real time, including its port at sunset. The world is realized to an insane degree, and there's simply too much to see in one run. I tried to hop around with new characters just to get glimpses of what you could do, but this is not a mod you can really experience fully in less than a few hundred hours, at least I would say so. For my part, I decided to start as a Visigoth lord under King Theodoric II, even knowing that historically they're going to get rocked by Majorians soon. Regardless, this is Valimir, the monastery raiding, village burning, war loving Goth who cares only about one thing. Well, I guess two things: money and glory. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I share my journey across late antiquity in the final days of the Western Roman Empire to show you just a fraction of what this new mod is all about. So as far as the broad strokes of this run go, I began my journey in Tolosa, which is in modern-day northern Spain, and after a brief stint in the arena to practice my combat skills, as I tend to do after not playing Warband for a bit, I decided to check out the recruitment process for the mod, which opts for smaller troop trees in favor of more specialized roles, as most units will have maybe one upgrade, if at all, and there will be many more of them. As such, this can be a little overwhelming initially trying to determine which units to select and what they're supposed to do, be they skirmishers, spearmen, infantry, or horse archers or whatever, but you get used to it. Aside from that, most early warband runs, be they modded or not, go about the same. You take quests from local guildmasters, raid bandit camps, raid villages, and collect money so you can afford more troops, some companions, new equipment, etc. One pretty cool feature of the mod that I discovered kind of early on is the religion system, which does play a role in the world itself. You can be anything from Chalcedonian Christian to Greco-Roman pagan, and each holy site has options for you to offer supplication, places you can visit and chat with the locals, such as this monastery, and even the odd quest chain, although you'll have to hunt those down for yourself. You can also raid these places for some pretty easy gold early on, and since I planned on converting Valimir to paganism anyway, that's what I did. After about a month under Visigoth domain and doing a brief quest for a priest to find a codex, which is one of the many quests that you can find in the game, I found a tournament to participate in and used this as my reasoning, even though I didn't have to because I was a noble anyway, to meet King Theodoric II, and in my headcanon, he used it as his opportunity to berate me for my many raids on villages and churches, to which Valimir furiously stormed away and basically told him to kick rocks, never to return. Having left the Visigoths behind, I traveled north at the advice of one of the mod developers, and I think this is how you say this name, Volodovic, who was also the one to initially reach out to me to give the mod a look for this video. I was instructed to go to a place called Heorot in the Daenier lands, where a eventually three-part questline can be started. I was also informed that eventually the Romans and the Visigoths will have similar branching questlines. But before I started it, I first stopped at this pagan holy site called Donor's Oak, where I formally converted to paganism, allowing me to raid the Christian holy sites without fear of spiritual compromise, at least for me. I mean, it's not really a game mechanic, but it could be. I do recommend going to these holy sites anyway as you pass them by, even if you're not of the same faith, as the developers have taken the time to ensure they're each unique and there's something interesting to see. Once in Heorot, I approached this man, King Gramar Skoldunger, who has heard of us on account of the fact I started as a lord, but normally you would need a bit of renown to start this quest. Now, the quest itself follows a sort of epic poem-style narrative where you will meet famed northern lords led by King Gramar, who will introduce himself as the king of the Daenier, and who evidently desires the lands of the Jutes. Heorot is comprised of two different camps, so after I spoke with Gramar, I went over to meet some of his retainers and thanes, where you will unlock our quest proper by speaking with Knef Hochsing and Hengist Wodening. I'm sure I'm saying those wrong. From here, it's kind of a parade of names, deeds, places, and faces. It's pretty engrossing, and I don't want to spoil the entire dialogue tree, but basically, call him Nafe, because I'm not sure how you say his name. Nafe is planning on going with a few of his own retainers at King Gramar's permission to see his sister Hildebra, who is currently married to the king of the Frisians, Finn Folkwalding, who happens to be Nafe's rival, who is married out of political reasonings, apparently, and to meet his young nephew Aethelbald. Nafe offers you a chance to come along as an extra blade, as there's no lost love between the two peoples, and just for a chance to see the world with people of similar craft, that being war. Agreeing, you set off on a long ship where you can speak with the various companions at night and learn more about them, which I found to be nice world building. The king of the Frisians, however, was not aware of our coming. He was not the one who invited us, it was Nafe's sister. But regardless, we are welcomed, and the nephew Aethelbald welcomes us to a feast in our name. Hildebra and Nafe have a touching reunion in the feast, and all seems well, although Valimir only partially cared about all of this because an attractive maiden caught his eye, and he was too busy rolling in the hay to discuss any politics or to care about whatever was going on. Waking up from this pleasurous stew stupor, however, Valimir quickly discovers the feast and the visit was a trap, and you and the other warriors are locked inside the hall. Finn evidently saw this as a chance to take revenge on Naif for pains he has caused to the Frisians, and decided to act and get rid of him once and for all, thus starting the battle where waves of Frisians break into the hall, and you and the warriors try to hold out. For 5 days we fight, barricaded and kept sane by the company of our battle brothers, but eventually Valimir is knocked unconscious in the scrum and wakes to find most of his new companions have died, along with Finn's son and heir, Aethelbald, with Naif also on his deathbed after a mortal blow to the head. After a tense talk, Hengist, now the leader of your band, signs a temporary peace agreement with Finn, but vows with you to take revenge for the King of the Frisians' betrayal, which you can agree to or decline, but of course we say yes, and now we have to wait another 30 in-game days before it pops up. This will give us time to adventure further, but overall I found this quest to be quite a lot of fun, and if it's indicative at all of what awaits this mod's future questlines, then the future looks pretty bright, in my opinion. With about a month to kill in-game, I decided I didn't want to be a lawless mercenary just working for whoever, so I headed south for the fated gold of Rome, and after meeting the man himself, Emperor Julianus Valerius Majorianus Augustus, Valimir pledged himself to Rome as a noble and was given the fief of Heorot, which is ironic considering he's a Visigoth, and Heorot is the location where Theodoric II was defeated by Majorian historically. Fun fact. I decided to take this opportunity to visit the tavern in Rome, where I discovered a disgraced senator named Avitus, who gives you a very entertaining quest which we won't actually be able to complete until basically the end of this video, and that's called the Black River, where you travel to a long abandoned by Western Rome Pannonia up the Black River to recover the senator's treasure held captive in his crumbling villa. I also decided to walk the beautiful streets of Rome, which again, the cities in this mod are just too gorgeous. I really recommend just going in and giving them a look. Since I noticed fairly quickly we were at war with Burgundy, basically directly north of my new fief, I decided I would take it upon myself to make that their problem and began raiding their villages and baiting their lords into battles whenever possible. Since I also have a new fief to pay for my troops, my problems with money, which is often the case in early warband, were pretty much over for the remainder of my run. I was able to maintain a fairly elite army of around 100 plus troops without issue, so long as I supplemented with the loot of various villages that carried heaps of delicious goods for me to sell. Interestingly, with Burgundy specifically, the AI could never figure out how to formally launch an attack. I'm not sure why, but every time the marshal would call the leaders together, it would just cancel itself over and over. So besides my efforts and a few lucky polls, nothing of substance really happens in Burgundy, and I would eventually, thanks to my eventual friendship with Majorian, convince him to end the war anyway. In July of 457, a few months into the game, Valimir was invited to compete in a tournament in Rome where, and I don't know why I was surprised by this, you fight in the Colosseum itself. Honestly, I was pretty stoked for this. This revelation was insane, and I spent longer than I care to admit looking at the light of early morning streaming into the arena while the men fought for the crowd's entertainment. There's not enough crowd in the arena, realistically, but it is really cool. It's truly beautiful stuff. I also ended up reloading just to see how it would look during the midday, which, while less impressive, is still a sight to behold. A laurel crown on my head, though, and the glory of my exploits in Burgundy to boot, Valimir has come far already in the eyes of the West. So much so that Majorian, seeing his potential, offered him an important mission of his own that required us to find and eliminate a group of Vandal raiders under King Geiseric's brother-in-law, Visimar, very close to Valimir. Isn't that interesting? While out on the hunt for Visimar's party, a letter from Hengist arrives informing us that the war parties are assembled and they await our return to strike at the Frisians. Now, since I haven't really talked about it, I've been taking my time throughout this run to use most of my money to recruit a lot of elite units like Centurions and elite cavalry. So the war party that I find under Visimar, it doesn't stand a chance, and he actually dies in the fighting. I decided to turn this quest in later, though, because, and I wasn't sure if this was true, and it's not, I thought you were on a timer to complete the second part of the Daenir quest, so I rushed back to go do it. I found out later that it actually just triggers when you arrive, so it probably doesn't matter when you go. Upon arrival, King Grammar swears an oath to avenge his fallen Thane, while Hengist swears to avenge his former lord and to take revenge on the sister who, as we have now seen, betrayed him, leading to not only her brother, but her son's death. Boarding the warships, we are treated to an epic scene of lightning striking the waves while Hengist prays to our coming victory. The ensuing battle at Finn's Hall takes place in waves, with the initial being an ambush after our arrival and making camp, followed by a raid of the Finn village, and eventually leading to their great hall where Hengist personally slays Finn, which is quite poetic. I did not plan for that. Avenging his lord and ending the conflict for good. A celebration is had for our victory in typical epic fashion, and Guthlof, another one of our companions, becomes the new king of the Frisians, while Hengist plans to return to Britannia to take revenge on the Britons for their denial of his rightful payment and to conquer lands for himself, which I assume will be part 3 of this quest. Hengist also gives you Naif's sword, which has a bonus against shields, which is pretty cool. It's normally a thing that axes do, but whatever. Thus, this questline is over. All told, I quite enjoyed it, though the writing felt a little over the top at times. It did capture the feel of an epic drama between various warlords, and I look forward to seeing what the other questlines they make in the years to come do. I returned to Rome to inform the Emperor of my deeds in his name against the Vandal raiders, earning his friendship and, more importantly, another mission. This time to uncover a potential plot against him by a man named Agrippinus, who apparently, if you do not deal with once the quest begins, will in-game have Majorian assassinated and claim the throne for himself, which is pretty cool. Majorian asks you to visit an agent of his already investigating the rumors of dissent, Jacobus, in Augustus Augustus Susonium, and together work to put a stop to whatever is going on if need be. Jacobus informs us we should speak to some of the local lords and get a better sense of the rumors circulating around Lutetia regarding Agrippinus. There you discover he's quite upset about his recent demotion by the emperor, is hosting a large party at his estate for local lords, and has been busy hiring mercenaries. Returning to Jacobus, you can tell him of these discoveries and also learn that Agrippinus is attempting to secure an alliance with King Theodoric of the Visigoths. The signs definitely pointing to guilty on all accounts, if you asked my opinion. And after a brief visit to this party of his where his guests seem either in favor of such an idea or indifferent to the fact he's plotting against the emperor, I believe he's guilty, so I told Jacobus this, and we prepare an assault on his manor, where after a brief skirmish with his loyal men, we take him into custody to answer to the courts of Rome. With this, we return to Rome, presumably with the baggage train, and inform Majorian of our success, which he commends and rewards us well. From here, the rest of my time with Valimir revolved around our war with the Vandals, now that I've convinced Majorian to leave the Burgundians alone. During the course of the war, we managed to raid numerous villages for pretty hefty profit considering how valuable salt is, and reclaim Sicily, Sardinia, and Corsica, capturing a few Vandal lords as well along the way. With his newfound riches, I upgraded Valimir's gear to the armor you see in the thumbnail, a lovely lordly mail, and finally attempted the Black River quest we got so many months ago at the beginning of this video. This quest is super interesting because it's both my favorite and least favorite I did for the video, only because to complete it, you have to do the entirety of it in one go, and you do not get to save, and if you get knocked out at any point, you have to start it completely over. This was probably my 5th attempt at it, but I really wanted to finish it because I wanted to see what happened. To begin, we have to go to the Gothic city of Sirmium and meet with the sailor Geronatus, who will assist us in going up the Black River for Avitus. Along the way, we're assaulted by river pirates in our little boat, discover the last vestiges of Roman rule in Pannonia in an old Roman fort, which long abandoned by the empire is being run by the son of the former Roman lord, a man named Angelus, who informs us that they are doing their best to survive away from the empire, but are under constant pressure by local Samarti horse lords. The battle to defend the fort begins after a surprise raid during our conversation, prompting the soldiers to action. It is probably my favorite fight in the mod. The chaos of the galloping hooves and the fact about 3/4 of them use throwing spears means you have to be abundantly cautious or you'll have to start completely over, as one hit from these is usually an instant knockout. After the battle, we are gifted Angelus' father's sword as thanks for our aid. People just love giving away swords, and proceed to Avitus' villa, which, though weed-stricken and in disrepair, is still a sight to behold and harkens to a Rome long gone. Inside, we meet a man called Hothus, a Langobard, who has laid claim to the villa, and once you finish speaking with, will attack you. Once he's defeated, or sometimes before it seems random, you will be ambushed by 4 more of his guards. This was and is probably the hardest fight in the mod, as a 5v1 in Warband is incredibly challenging no matter the difficulty. Thankfully, I survived, but only just, and we recover 50,000 siliqua, or gold, I don't know how you say it. And returning to Rome, I give Avitus his gold, which he lets me keep 5,000 of, and our quest is complete. But while I was away, I discovered that the Vandals have moved to retake Sardinia. But with some interesting pulls, I managed to draw several different Vandal lords into a few sea battles, even capturing their king Gaiseric himself, who I promptly ferried over to Rome and Majorian for the bounty. With these lords gone, I found myself locked into one final conflict to lift the siege of Caerleon, a near even split 423 versus 416 troop battle in the field. It was here the Vandals were broken, their ranks crushed and scattered to the 4 winds, but also here our beloved Valimir fell in the shield wall, leading the push against the enemy. Majorian himself presided over the funeral of his beloved friend and turned his attention back to North Africa to seek revenge for the fallen and to reclaim the lands of the empire. But that story is for other men. For the tale of Valimir is done. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I want to thank the developers of the 457 AD mod for trusting me enough to make a launch video for your mod. I really hope I did it justice, and as I said, this is a huge world out there for you to explore, and this video barely scratches the surface of the potential storylines you could uncover in this wonderfully realized recreation of our own history. I had an absolute blast with it, and I cannot wait to see what y'all do going forward. This is about a 15-hour run for those of you who are curious. I would have liked to give it more time, but I really wanted to get something done before the mod comes out. But as always, I'm Sol. This has been another Mount and Blade Warband mod showcase, and I will happily see you in the next one.